Alright, we're going to get right down to solving square roots, page 2. I can solve a square root in a 1/2 power equation algebraically. Most of this is kind of common sense, and I think you'll be okay. Make sure, alright. Radical equation contains a variable with a radical or a variable raised to a non-integer rational power, for instance, 1/2 and 1/2 here, or a radical like you see here. To solve a square root, or equivalently, an equation involving a power of 1/2, they're just saying square roots and 1/2 are the same, right? You can square both sides, and then we solve what's left. Because opposite numbers have the same square, squaring both sides of an equation may introduce an apparent solution that is not an actual solution. Because when you square, now you've got two solutions to an equation. 36, the square root of 36 is positive and negative 6, and in this case it may not be both of those. So I'll show you one of those in the first problem here. You can square both sides here, but let's go ahead. It makes it a little easier if I don't have to treat this like a binomial if I move everything over here first. Right, so I subtract 2 and I get the square root of x plus 10 equals x minus 2. Alright, and then we take this and we square both sides. That gets rid of that radical, squaring both sides. And that gives me x plus 10 equals, and I'm going to FOIL this in my head. Remember, we would write this twice, right? And we have to multiply everything by everything. If you do that, you're going to get x squared minus 4x plus 4. FOIL that out if you don't see what I just did. And then we take this and solve it. So we subtract x. And I'm going to go ahead and do 2 steps. I'm going to subtract 10 as well. And I get 0 equals x squared minus 5x minus 6. And we should be able to factor this. Multiplies to negative 6 and adds up to negative 5. Which is going to be an x minus 3 and, oh, I'm wrong, x minus 6 and x plus 1. Now we set both factors equal to 0. X minus 6 equals 0, which gives me a solution maybe of x equals 6. And x plus 1 equals 0, and again a solution maybe of x equals negative 1. Let's plug these in. Let's check it right over here. So if I plug in 6, 2 plus square root of 6 plus 10 equals 6, which gives me 2 plus the square root of 16 equals 6. 2 plus 4 equals 6, and it does. That checks out. Well, let's check another one. Let's check negative 1. Gives me 2 plus the square root of, what, negative 1 plus 10 equals negative 1. Oh, I don't know how this is going to work out. There's no way I'm going to get all this to equal. Oh, that's 2 plus. We'll see. 2 plus the square root of 9 equals negative 1. That gives me 2 plus 3 equals negative 1, and it doesn't. No. So I'm going to cross this guy off, and we have one solution of 6. Okay. We're going to keep going with this guy. It's not bad. We should isolate first, so I'm going to add 2x minus 4 to both sides first. 2x minus 4. And if you don't do this, it gets kind of tricky because you'd have to FOIL these out. So we're just moving things to different sides to make things a little easier. And make sure I know that's to the 1/2 power right there. So we got, now on both sides we have 2x minus 4 to the 1/2 power. And now it's kind of easy because we're just going to square both sides. Alright, that gets rid of 1/2 power. The opposite of a square root, which is that, is a square. So we're doing it to both sides. And I get x plus 6 equals 2x minus 4. Let's go ahead and, well, it's a linear equation now, so if I add 4 to both sides and subtract x from both sides, I get 10 equals x. And let's go ahead and check that out, see if it works. So I'm going to say the square root of 10 plus 6, right? Minus the square root of, what do we got? We got 2 times 10 minus 4 equals 0, which gives me the square root of 16. I'm going to write that as a radical now. Minus, what, 20 minus 4 is also the square root of 16, equals 0. That definitely is going to check out, isn't it? So my answer here is 10. Let's do one more here. Alright, we'll be done with this page. Let's go ahead and add 2 plus 2. And I get the square root of x plus 5. I'll leave that to the 1/2 power, but we know it means square root. Take both sides and square it. This cancels out. We get x plus 5 equals 9. That's kind of easy. Nice to see something easy. X equals 4. Let's check it out. We got to check this. So I'm going to say 4 plus 5. We'll say square root instead of 1/2 power, just so we can recognize that they are very similar to each other. In fact, they mean the same thing. Square root of 9 minus 2 equals 1. 3 minus 2 definitely equals 1. X equals 4 is my answer. Alright. This says the graph of each equation in part A is shown on the graphing calculator screen. How can you tell from the graph that one of the two solutions found to algebra is extraneous? Well, obviously, -1 is down here, and 6 must be here. So it's showing us which ones, right? And we could just say there is only one solution. Only one solution. That said, we could also probably tell that this negative number isn't it, just by looking at the graph, but that's probably the true answer. It doesn't ask you to tell which one is fake. It just asks you to say, how do I know it's only one? It's because we've only crossed once there. And that's the end of page 2.